So Saber Runner, I can see all the parts that will eventually become a VGS, and I know it's a long way off, but how do you plan on taking a campaign full of characters and a built encounter and dropping them on a tactical battle map? That is quite the implementation question that you got going there, Saber Runner. So I'm not going to be able to answer all of the details of that for sure. But I can tell you that these are all considerations. You are on to something with what you're trying to, ultimately think about there. And these are all things that we're thinking about. And we don't have all the specifics that we're ready to share, but it is something. All of those angles are being covered, and I do appreciate the question. Finnick 2020. Any way to get primary abilities for a class highlighted on the ability page? I think that's an interesting concept. And I think that as part of just an overall effort to try to improve the new player experience, I think that really is a good idea. So we'll see what we can do there. Adriandus, you have mentioned adding temporary effects, rage, spell effects, etc., to characters as part of the process of running a combat. However, it seems like it would also be useful to be able to switch on these effects on a character sheet even outside an active combat. Say folks aren't using the combat tracker. Will this be possible? Not exactly sure on the specifics of how that's going to be implemented yet, but I could conceive that that is something that we would want to allow to be possible regardless of what's going on with duration or turn tracking. So that's what I'll say for now. You will never know is how I think you're trying to go with that. So you will never know what is in scope for the next 3 years. Wow, that's a huge question, and I don't really know how I can answer that because we can't tell the future with a lot of confidence. But I can tell you that we are going to continue to march down the path and try to fulfill the vision that we've had really since the very beginning, which is wanting to bring the most convenience that we possibly can to playing the game, to enhance the game, to mitigate the negative impacts of rules at the table, where the best parts, at least in my opinion, of D&D really can shine through, which is the interactive storytelling, the cooperation between friends and players at a table. So we're going to continue to focus on doing that, and that's going to take us places, with more convenience, more customization, and then finally, to be alliterative here, we talk about captivation, so immersion and being able to visualize things. So all of those are themes that matter to us, and I could say in the next 3 years, you'll start to see more and more of that happen. Nampi, will there be cake? The issue with quarantine and working remotely at this point is it's hard to get cake to everyone. But I am sure, like, maybe we just go on and make this call that if everyone on the team wants to order, some cake that they get, delivered to their house, we can probably expense that. I think that's a great idea. So if you want some cake for Saturday's anniversary, then I'll take the blame if our finance department gets mad at us there. Bone Graph, is Wizards Coast trying to change your formats with the insanely long survey? Happy 3 years. I'm not sure what you mean by formats there, but no, nothing's changing. Companies need to collect information and data, and Wizards of the Coast has had several attempts at that in the past. But I will definitely say, like, it was a long one, a little bit of a marathon to get through. Devere P, any plans to add the new Eberron book? So there, just to be clear for everyone out there, there isn't a new officially published Everon book. I believe what you're referring to is what has gone on to the Dungeon Masters Guild. And I am a big fan of Keith. Love him and love his work. And I really, really like that product as well. But we take our cues on what can be included on D&D Beyond from Wizards of the Coast. And so if that's something that you want to see, by all means, bring that up with them. And if they give us the green light to do that, we would be happy for that to live on the platform. But at this point in time, there are no current plans for that to happen. Let's see. Ryzen Wolf. When will we get digital dice rolling on extras like pets, mounts, and wild shapes? That is something that we will add over time, and something that we know will be, a fun integration once we get there, but it is on the list. Adriandus, will adding dice rolling to monster stat blocks require a similarly intensive back-end change as the character sheet did? No, it shouldn't be as extensive as anything that happened with the characters. I doubt anything that we do in the future will be as extensive as the rework that ended up happening on characters. And a big part of that is the characters service from a traffic point of view, from an integration point of view, from really all angles, is the lifeblood, is the heart and soul of what happens on D&D Beyond. And so it's just a very important system and a very complex system. And so lots and lots of time was required to really update that to where it needed to be. So we wouldn't expect that with monsters, but at the same time, I don't want to downplay any of the potential complexity there as we start to get into it. Burgertron 2000, great work on the player app. I was wondering if you have plans to have a DM app that has encounter builder and combat tracker in it. We're certainly considering that, and we don't have any completely solid concrete plans at this point in time, but we are discussing, we are monitoring the feedback in the community and the demand from the community to see if that's something that a direction that we want to move in the future. Again, with limited development resources, we're trying to do the best that we can to cover the things that people are asking for the strongest. And by the way, we don't base this on just some social media posts or whatever. We have a variety of ways that we collect that data. We use data from our own platform about what people are using and what they're interested in. So yeah, all of those things come together to help us make those prioritization decisions. But if that is something that you want to see, then you ask questions like you just did. You go to our forums and talk about it. You talk about it on Discord. You bring that up, and if we detect that demand and see use on the website and everything else for those things, it would make sense that we would go that route at some point in the future. Ed VMS, Cleric of Life fix. So that is something that is actually in progress at the moment. So no ETA, but it is in progress at the moment. And there will be many hallelujah choruses when it happens, and everyone will love the entire team, and we will have to find something new to be upset about. So that's totally fine. I do the same thing as a fan of many things out there. But yeah, Cleric of the domain, the life domain, Disciple of Life feature is something that I believe we are working on right now. So we'll keep you posted. Saber Runner, will we get character sheets for pre-gens that come in adventures? I think this is something that we will do once we get to a point. We've got some on our list roadmap out there. We do have something that we want to do with the ability to copy characters. So if someone has a public character, you could visit that character and then you could copy down a version of that character. Once we get to that point, that's where the team can very easily create these pre-mades and allow people to copy them down like that from within an adventure. So that's when that would happen. No ETA, but it is on the list. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to click another Saber Runner. Saber Runner is just taking over our Q&A time. I appreciate all the questions, Saber Runner, but is implementing spell points still under consideration? It is under consideration from the standpoint of we would like to get to all those optional rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but it is certainly not on our short-term list. We are focusing on making sure that we cover the non-optional rules the best that we possibly can and provide the level of customization that we need to before we start moving to some of those optional elements. And before anyone says anything, you could say that feats are an optional element, but I think that we all know that they're not actually. Let's be really, really honest. Like, so before anybody goes there. Era Groth, can you explain a bit more of the process of class variants? I know you were working on the spell list first, but are the variant features being worked on now as well? What is it that has to happen on the back end to make all of this happen? So I am not going to be able to get into a ton of detail there, but one of the things that I can say that it's not always incredibly easy for us in our quest for transparency to be able to message and communicate, complexities or challenges in a way that will make enough universal and broad sense to the community out there. And so I think class feature variants were one of those circumstances where we had many, many elements that created a little more challenge and difficulty than most people would be able to understand out there, and that's just because of the lack of context. It has nothing to do with the ability to grok it or anything, but it's more about discussions that we're having with Wizards of the Coast that are not public discussions. It's the fact that we were completely rewiring our framework for characters was a huge part of that. It had to do with, if we introduced this element with 35 million characters in play, what was that going to do to our database and infrastructure? It had to do with, are there other things that we should maybe focus on that we have been trying to get in place in front of some optional playtest content? So there are many factors that go into everything that's happened with class feature variants. It has to do with some internal team changes. So, again, there are lots and lots of factors. And even though we want to be as transparent as we possibly can with the community, sometimes that context is just not going to always come through, because all I would be doing is explaining that context to folks out there. So ultimately, this is something that, yes, we're doing extended spell list first, which is a required element of what we need for class feature variants. And then the framework is in a good spot at this point in time. And now we are moving forward with what's going on. So to answer the secondish question, I think are they being worked on now as well? The team is essentially finishing up what's happening with extended spell list, and will be starting on the actual writing the code part of the feature part in any day now. But that's not to say that other work hasn't been happening, because we have design, we have architecture, we have all kinds of steps that have to happen. So those have already happened at this point in time. We'll keep everyone posted. We know that there's a lot of excitement about class feature variants, and I personally am excited. The team is excited about this too, but we really did have to do this in the right way to satisfy all of the disparate parameters that we had going on out there, some of which we can't openly talk about. Let's see. GK Smith LCW, any movement on compendium encounter preloading? Okay, so I think you mean having access to the official adventure encounters as pre-made. I think is what you mean by that, and we are looking into that. We've taken kind of an intermediate step to where encounters now are you can copy encounters and that kind of thing and share them, and so we could go in and start entering all those encounters and let you do it that way, but it's not the best user experience. And so we would like to be able to take that one more step to where they're just there and it's not like a sharing situation. So ultimately, not exactly sure when we're going to be able to fit that in, but we will be looking for opportunities to get there. Aylwin, what things would be on Adam's DM screen? Uh, that's a great question. And I have to answer very honestly here. Beautiful artwork. So I never, at any point in time during play, ever look at the inside of a DM screen as I'm playing because most of the time, a laptop, you can't see it, it's right here. A laptop is in front of it because I am looking things up quickly and easily with D&D Beyond. So I don't use physical books at the table. I use physical books in other places, such as the couch or the privy or whatever else. Right? Physical books are great, but ultimately, when I am at play, I have D&D Beyond. I am globally searching anything that I don't quite remember. The truth is, in most of my games, I do enjoy a pretty good memory, and so I've got a fairly decent grasp of the rules, and I remember a lot of things. And so I don't look up a ton of things during play, but the things that I do is just I already have D&D Beyond up. I find it, in 30 seconds, and we go on with the game. If anything stretches on to the point where I feel like I would need to look at a dungeon master screen, I am making a ruling on it and telling everyone very briefly and briskly that for now this is what we're going to say. I will look this up between sessions, and if we need to make changes to how that works going forward, then we'll do that as we come to it. So for me, pacing and keeping the game going is the most important thing for my players at the tables that I run, and even it's my preference. So nothing really paying attention to the charts or quick look up things on the DM screen. However, I will say that it is incredibly important for me to have one because I love the artwork and I love for players and myself to be immersed in what's going on with that artwork. And so I am always looking for Dungeon Master screens that are highlighting the best and most beautiful art that we can possibly find. And so I own all of them and I switch them out depending on my mood and everything else. So yeah, that's my favorite part of a DM screen. Kai Thorne, what is your favorite music to listen to as background music when you work? That's interesting. If you maybe didn't catch this, I am a musical fan, and so I listen to several Broadway musicals. I have recently been listening to Beetlejuice. There's a lot of fun songs in that. There is a new musical that's kind of starting up right now that I haven't been able to actually see a performance or anything, but I believe it might be something that does eventually come to Broadway. I think there's a lot of promise there. That's called Starry, that's based on Vincent van Gogh's life. So that's been a lot of fun lately. I've been listening to a lot of Hadestown, and I am currently working on a little more musical tribute content that involves Hadestown with some very exciting folks in the D&D community out there. So we'll have more to share on that before too much longer. If I am not listening to something that is very narrative based, like a musical, I am listening to songs without words typically. So I love classical music. I adore Johann Sebastian Bach. and I'm going to listen to his music quite a bit. And then I like things like when Stranger Things hit, everybody was talking about the D&D references and going nuts over that. And don't get me wrong, I loved that part, but I completely fell apart with the synth music and opening and everything else. So I do listen to a good bit of that kind of instrumental music, and I find that ultimately what I'm getting at is if I am working, I either need to know the song like the back of my hand, where it's like a robotic thing, or I need the song not to have words, because otherwise I sing along too much and then I can't get any work done. Panoramic Panda, not as a company, but individual. What are your guys' thoughts on Tailspire? I think Tailspire is doing some really, really cool things out there, and I don't mind saying that as a member of this company. I think they're doing some really, really cool things, and I'm really keeping an eye on what they're doing out there. Saber Runner still working on the ability to gift content. Yes, we are. So I hope this year's the year, but no promises. We're definitely trying to work on that. Let's see, trying to sort through some duplicates here. Skyling, are homebrew invocations a thing that's still on the list to happen? I haven't been able to accurately input my character sheet in about 2 years. I'm sorry about that last part, but homebrew invocations are a thing that are on the list. No ETA on when those will actually happen, but it is on the list. And I do encourage you to possibly, look into some of the workarounds that do exist out there for some of those invocations, and possibly even some of the extended spell list, activity might help you approximate that and do a workaround. I know that that's not ideal, and please don't take that as me saying that everybody should be satisfied with workarounds. It is on our list and something that we want to make happen, but haven't been able to focus on yet. But we'll keep everyone posted. Let's see. Celtic Muggle. That's a good one. What's the worst or funniest bug you can remember happening in the last 3 years? Wow. What a question. The worst or funniest bug. The truth is, and this is a testament to our engineering team, seriously, there haven't been, D&D Beyond has not been like, our downtime is incredibly minimal. When you really, really look at the metrics and the statistics out there, we are at a very high level of performance from that perspective. Very little downtime. I'm going to knock on wood. I hope that doesn't jinx things, here soon. But yeah, so it's hard to think that through. Especially like the funniest bug. I will say that we've had some funny things happen with admin only type activity. So there are all these things that happen if you're an admin on D&D Beyond, where I can enter something and you, the public, would never see it. And so I would say that, some of the bugs surrounding that are things that you would never be able to enjoy, but they probably have been the funniest thing. So when I go to create a character and I see some new base class or something where somebody is trying to sort something out for some kind of really unique stream character or something, and I panic thinking that all of a sudden, there's something has happened with wizards or UA content that I somehow wasn't aware of, and I'm going to investigate, and then I just find out later that someone was just playing around with something. Those are probably the funniest things that happen, but thankfully we have some pretty good controls in place where you don't have to suffer through any of that kind of confusion. But yeah, that would probably be it. I'll think about that one a little bit more, and maybe let you know in the coming weeks if I think of something better than that. Let's see. Sorry, trying to sort through those duplicates. Adventure Fight. Do you foresee, we got a couple more minutes. Do you foresee a day when DDB will ever be complete? No, I don't. And I think that that probably comes down to possibly my personality more than any kind of business mandate or anything else to do with that. I am definitely someone who is always looking to improve, who is never standing still, who wants to keep swimming instead of sinking. And so I think that many on the D&D Beyond extended team feel the same way, and we know that we've got a lot of ground to cover, and we're committed to covering that. And once we get to where we currently think the end state is, there's going to be a new end state that's laid out before us. So yeah, this is something that we're going to continue to be on that mission to make the game more and more convenient, to make it more customizable, and to captivate fans as they're playing out there. That's what we're about. That's what we're going to try to do, and we're going to keep getting there. We're not going to be perfect in it, but that is our mission, and we're going to continue to do that until for whatever outside circumstances make it to where we can't do that. But we are not aware of anything like that. We're in this for the long haul, and we're going to keep marching ahead full steam. All right, one more. Paul W41, will sharing dice results be done by end of year? I can't answer that. I do appreciate the question, but I can't answer that. But I can tell you it is something that I'll throw you a little bit of a bone here. It is something that we anticipate at least starting before the end of the year. But that's as far as I'll go today. All right, I appreciate everyone joining me today. It's been an incredible 3 years, and the truth is, I talked about the team earlier. We went down memory lane for a little while, but none of this would be possible without the fans, without the community out there. We genuinely do love you. We appreciate all the feedback, good, bad, or otherwise. It makes us better. It has been such an honor to be able to serve the community and to meet so many of you and interact with so many of you. Really, really much appreciated. I thank you for joining me today. We will see you next week. Later, Gators.